In this video, we take a look at the 5 impact laws of golf. If you want to improve your golf game, you have to improve one or more of these variables. For most golfers, improving at the game can be a real struggle. I'm sure if you're like many other golfers, you've worked tirelessly on your backswing position or your takeaway, and probably to no avail. While these things might be important, they might not directly correlate with better play. That's mainly because better golf shots reside in how the club interacts with the ball at impact. So this video is going to show you exactly what you need to improve to get better at golf. Our number 1 is face strike. This is an often overlooked thing by amateur golfers, but the difference between an amateur and a professional's face strike can be quite significant, with professionals having a much tighter dispersion around the sweet spot and amateurs being a little bit more spread over the face. Here we see an example of a driver coming into impact, and then we see the possible strike locations of a heel or a toe, or in an ideal case, somewhere in between those. We also have what we call vertical strike, so that's whether you strike too high or too low on the club face. In this example you can see a centered strike, but if the club is to come in too high, we would actually hit lower on the face, and this could be a huge distance loss for most amateur golfers. If the club comes in too low, we might strike higher on the face, and obviously we've all hit those pop-up shots when the club goes really too low compared to where the ball is, and we end up hitting the paintwork of the club. The second parameter is speed. Now we're all limited by our speed, and we see here the linear relationship between swing speed and carry distance. This is for a driver. So we can see at 80 mile an hour we're kind of limited to 190 yards carry. When we get to 100 mile an hour, the potential is 260 yards of carry distance. And then one of the main reasons why professionals hit the ball so far is their swing speeds can reach upwards of 120 mile an hour, which can result in 310 yards of carry distance. Our third parameter is club face position at impact. Now it's important to realize that it's the position the club face is in at impact that counts, not where it is at address, although that may influence it. The club face position at impact is one of the biggest determinants of the starting direction of the golf ball. Here we see an example of a square club face where the club is pointing at the target. We also have an open face where the club face is pointing to the right of the target, and then what we call a closed face where the club is left of the target at impact. All else being equal, if your club face is more closed at impact, the results will finish more left, and vice versa. Here we see an example of what we call a square swing path, where the club arcs slightly from the inside, moves directly down towards the target through impact, before curving back inside the ball to target line. Some golfers swing the club more from in to out, or we call that a right swing path. Players who have this pattern tend to suffer more with push shots and hook shots. A good shot for them would be a draw onto the target. We also have the opposing swing path, which is an outside or left swing path, where the club cuts across the ball from out to in. Essentially, that club is moving to the left through impact. Players with this pattern will tend to suffer with pulls and slices, and a good shot for them would be a fade onto the target. If we look at an example where the club face is square to the target at impact, but the club is moving left through impact, that'll impart a spin on the ball that sends the ball curving to the right. As a result, the ball might start straight, but it ends up curving into the trees. If the club face is square at impact but the path is more to the right, that creates a difference between path and face, which creates a draw or hook spin on the golf ball. This produces a ball flight that starts straight but then hooks into the left trees. I've saved the best for last. This is probably one of the biggest differences between professional and amateur golfers: ground contact. We all love the sound and the feel of that flush ball then turf contact, and we see this here in super slow motion, where the club is traveling on the downward part of the arc, strikes the golf ball then leaves the face, and then a divot is taken after the golf ball. This has a huge influence on the distance the ball flies and the consistency of distance. Before we finish and summarize the 5 main impact laws, make sure to click the link in the description to get a free ebook which normally sells for $9.95 with 16 hacks to lower your handicap. So as a quick recap, we have the face strike, that's whether you strike the center, the toe or the heel. We also have the club speed, that's going to be the limiting factor in our distance. We have the face angle, which is the biggest determinant of the starting direction of the ball. And we have the swing path, which will determine a lot of where the ball curves relative to the club face. And lastly, but most importantly, we have the ground contact. That's whether we're hitting ball, then turf, or if you suffer with fats and tops or thin shots, that means you're not hitting the ground effectively.